and hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode, If Not Now Wen. Today, I have such an honor to invite our guest, Chris Fronda, to the show today with us. Chris, he's coming from a corporate background with years of experience in software development. Today, he's a Chief Logic Officer at Logictray. Wow, what a cool name. They are helping organizations overcome both knowledge transfer and software development challenges and streamline their business for success. We're going to learn so much more in our episode. With that, everybody, I am so excited. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Chris, so tell us how is the journey begin for you?
So for me, this journey has been a long one, but I would have to say it begins with growing up with a mother that's in education.
Oh.
And so seeing, having education just be a part of my upbringing, seeing how she taught kindergarten, then taught in second grade, and eventually became the director of inclusion for K through 4. And is just very passionate about, including everyone, helping provide access to the educational experience for anyone. Mm-hmm. That's something very important to her. And it's also been just something very important to me throughout my life.
Wow. How does that impact you? What does that mean by saying that's important for you?
For me, it's funny. I never thought about it that helping other people, learn wouldn't be something that I think it's just come naturally for me. I think it is because of, again, having a mother that was a teacher. Mm-hmm. But for me, it just came naturally that I loved teaching. I've always loved helping other people learn complex topics. And I was a tutor in high school and in college, helped tutor math and physics. It's just, I don't know, I've always had this just passion that anytime I can help someone learn something, mm-hmm. I just love seeing that in someone.
That's incredible. And then what next after college?
Yeah, so after college, I then took a job with National Instruments, which is a great tech company here in Austin, and actually really loved the founder and CEO, Dr. T of National Instruments. He working there, I got to experience a CEO that really cared about the culture and the work environment. Mm-hmm. It was funny. We went to work and he drove this 30-year-old pickup truck that was breaking down when he didn't have to, because he would rather have this amazing company and hire as many people as he could, and focus on getting people that are graduating college, getting them into a program that leads to their success. Mm-hmm. And he really has created this incredible work environment. Mm. And people that join there, it's, a lot of them become friends for life. All the people that join, it's one of the most connected networks of just people that work at an organization that stay in touch. And yeah, it's an incredible, and I think it's really just driven by that CEO that cares about, the success of others that join the organization.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the best? You feel like people really cares, and this is not just a job, a company. This is a big family. We are driving the value forward for our entire community.
Yes, yeah, shared values, the why, having everyone in an organization that cares about what the organization stands for is very important.
Yeah. So how long you been in the organization?
So I worked at National Instruments for 4.5 years. And so at the end of working for them, I was a product manager. Mm-hmm. So I managed one of their product lines, oversaw all the sales, marketing, manufacturing, basically overseeing all of these different coordinations across the organization. Mm. And then, that was what I did at the end of it.
Why left?
So I left because for me, being entrepreneurial was something I always wanted. So I always had this, I've always had more of a self-taught, that's another part of my kind of background is I've always enjoyed being able to just kind of learn things on my own and self-teach. And I've also, the being able to be free and creative and uninhibited in any way to do whatever you want and to go and and to accomplish as much as you want. That was important to me, and that's, I think, a trait for entrepreneurial. It's not easy, but if you are the type of person that has the drive and you really just want to have this uninhibited sky is the limit, then I think that's what was compelling to me.
Do you always know that about yourself, Chris?
The sky is the limit?
Yeah, that entrepreneurial spirit, that risk taker, that wanted to just have it all.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was just having a conversation this morning about risk, and I can't remember exactly, but there was this image I saw the other day that it was a video that a founder was talking about and showed an image while talking of a person walking a tightrope. And they had, one of those, just the big long poles to the sides, and they're crossing this just gap between two parts of the plateau, and saying that, to most people, this would look like a lot of risk, that, like too much risk. But for, I think when you know that something is just so, that you're so passionate about it, and you're going to dedicate the time to becoming whatever it is, you're just going to put in the time and effort, and you're going to overcome the challenges, then the risk kind of goes away. So it's like that tightrope walker that has spent so much time investing. I am going to be the best at walking this tightrope. And then now they can do things that anyone else would say is crazy, and that it's too much risk. So
I love that. One of the saying I heard and I really resonate is, you don't win unless you play.
Yes.
And maybe people who watching on the sideline said, well, play that game is insane. It's crazy. It's risky. It's whatever we are describing that to be.
Yep.
But you don't win unless you play.
That's exactly.
So back to you, Chris. Do you always know you want to be an entrepreneur?
I think so. I mean, I do think that was something that I think my grandfather was a big influence there. He was also he's who put me through high school, and has just also been someone that's been I think very influential in my life as far as hard work. So he came from nothing. He's one of those stories of just coming from a lot of poverty, and then ended up creating his own wealth and being independently successful. And so for him, having that same drive, whether that's entrepreneurial, it's just, I think for him, it's just impressing that having drive, having purpose, having that dedication to something, being good at what you do. And then I think that for me, I just had always a little bit of that more creative, independent spirit. Yeah. So when you mix the two of those together, I think you get that drive, but also wanting to be a little bit entrepreneurial, creative. Yeah. And that's what mixed, I think, for me.
I would never thought you describe yourself as creative. What do you mean by that, Chris?
Well, I think creative is that you desire to do something new, prove out something that the world needs, that doesn't exist today in the form that it exists, or just you want to bring something new, some new experience to it. And that's not all of entrepreneurship. I mean, entrepreneurship can be in many forms. But I think for myself, it's, creating something completely new and unique is something that's actually important to me.
I love that. So you always have this fire in your chest. You want to create something new. Then you go after you left National Instrument. Yep. And tell us, how's that experience be? Is the expectation of entrepreneurship really aligned with the actual experience?
Yeah. So The very first one when I left National Instruments, I started a company that was a partner to National Instruments. And so the thing that helped with that jump was also having, the relationships with National Instruments. And now I was a software developer for companies buying their products. And so it helped to, have a lot of those relationships and background to make that jump a bit easier. So I would say that first entrepreneurial jump, if you have something you're pursuing where you have another company that's also helping you, from theirs, because they have over 1,000 partner companies that they work with.
Oh.
Yeah. So they have, 1,000 partner companies that they have all this materials for training and getting you successful. And there's a lot of other companies that have done this successfully. Salesforce, Tableau, they have giant partner ecosystems of companies that can be entrepreneurial, but they can be entrepreneurial by helping the bigger company of Tableau or Salesforce.
Wow.
And that helps to, helps make it easier from finding business and just, growing your business.
Brilliant. So essentially you are almost stepping a stepping stone. You're not completely risk at all, but you do, able to have that creative endeavor to collaborate, to create a partnership, to create that new venture in that way.
Yes.
And how does that journey unfold? Was it success, endeavor? How do you shift from that to a fractional CTO afterwards?
Yeah, no, it was great. So it was about 5.5 years, and worked on a variety of projects, everything from I built medical device control systems that are being used by a large pharmaceutical company that's doing. So the very first project was doing type 1 diabetes research, islet transplantations, and looking at building. So we built these 4 different machines, Riccordi isolator, perfusion, perifusion, and each of these machines were used to do to test different drug compounds and how the islet cells respond to them, to look at ways to pursue that cure. And then
that's a huge jump from National Instrument.
Well, yeah, so that's when I left NI to then start VI Design Group, and this was my very first client. This is it actually, for me, that was, and there's a very long backstory that I'll maybe say for another day, but it's that's what was exciting to me, is I went straight from product manager to building the control system, and I wasn't sure that I could do it, but I knew that trying was worth it. I had to do it. So it wasn't even a question of, it was just, I had to do it. So
I'm so touched and inspired by that, Chris. I think oftentimes we are so fixing it about how, but I think when we figure out what first, the how will follow.
Yeah.
And you are someone to speak with such a conviction. You know exactly, you will figure it out. And you indeed figured it out. That's so admirable. That is truly, I think, the definition of entrepreneur spirit.
Thanks. Yeah, it took a lot of work. I'll say that, I worked for that first 2.5 months. Some days it was 7 a.m. I feel like I worked from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. just straight, and just so much to do. But honestly, it was the best feeling, was actually working, feeling like for the first time I had this, I could put in as much energy as I could, and then apply it to something that at the end of it could be such a, transformative product, in the world, and helping in the research, helping in other drug research that was then used subsequently. So it was just, for me, it's worth it,
I love that. I think at the end of the day, we all just want to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
Yep.
And when we can channel our energy, our effort into a cause, a project, a passion that align with that mission, that purpose, I think we all ultimately a happier person.
Yep.
That's amazing. So with that, you said you were in that role for 5 years. Chris, were you ever afraid? Or will you ever feel frustrated? Say, you know what? I don't know if this is the right choice.
Well, I think, the beginning, I was certainly fearful right when I first, started. I think that was, but it was good. I mean, kind of a good fear that pushed me to work harder and make sure that I, shipped the very first machine that we built. They, right when I joined, they said, you have 3 months. This machine has to ship to the pharmaceutical company. And so working within that timeline to learn and build.
Crazy.
And yeah, it was a crazy timeline.
To learn is one thing, to build is another. You only have 3 months in a completely new field. Oh my God.
And I had to learn and build all at the same time. It was just this on the, and I had a lot of training already, but this was the very first just, full on big project. And so I think, once I got past that first project and we were able to successfully deliver it, and the client was happy, and I ended up having them as a client for 3.5 more years.
Wow.
So I think after that first project, that's when a lot of the fear, went away, and then it was just get into the groove, right? Enjoy it. Start focusing on scaling the business. Start looking at new projects and where to keep going from there.
And why you left?
I left because, for me, I really love the there's a few things here. I really love continuous learning and education, and I like to keep expanding what I'm learning all the time. And so when I left to pursue mobile development, web development, blockchain stuff, and I can talk about that, but basically very different projects than what I was doing. So the former was this control system design, and now I went into mobile web, blockchain, completely different field, even though still software. And I love that, just getting this completely new learning environment. And then the second is maybe a little bit more impactful, is that, as a consultant, I really did love working with clients. But at the end of the day, I was developing the product that they then owned. And so, there was something that I wanted after that, is I wanted to build something that was kind of my product instead of delivering the service, something that when people would think of what I've maybe built or contributed, they would think of maybe the product and not the services that I've been offering, which again, I did love it. It was great clients, really enjoyed it, but still had that missing piece of there has to be something really big that I'm passionate about and care about, that I want to say, this is what I am about and stand for.
I love that you are so self-aware, knowing that what is important for you, knowing that there's some part is missing in that endeavor. And was it hard to leave, even with that intention? But you run a very successful business, right? It's a very amazing clientele. Was it hard to leave?
It was, and at the end of it, I also was working on a very big project for a Fortune 10 company, and working with a lot of great people, and I loved that project. But I'd say it wasn't difficult because of those other two reasons. I would say that desire that I had to create something as a product, and the also compelling desire to get into something new and continuously learning and improving. That's what made it, for me, it wasn't a difficult decision.
I love that. You just focus on what you want. You don't look back.
Yep.
So what's next for you, Chris?
Yeah. So from there, I got into a lot of just mobile development. Once you go from services to a product company, there are certainly challenges that, any entrepreneur in a product space, they learn that services versus products is very different. It's just a very different mindset of, instead of just delivering something that a client is asking for, in time and materials, now you're focused on really designing a product that maybe has something unique in the market. And also the pricing of it will no longer be this is my time and this is the cost for that time. It's now going to be, what do we set this price point at for this product? And, it's just a very different experience.
It's a value base. Now it's about how do you find a product market fit rather than how much time you spend, therefore.
Yes. It's now value-based pricing and or in the product market fit, differentiation in the market. I mean, it's just a lot of things that you then have to look for. So
was it difficult transition?
It was difficult in the sense that, it's just a very different mind shift. So a lot to learn. Interestingly, it was a bit of a moving back to when I was a product manager. So I had a bit of that training from National Instruments, but still trying to get back out of the services mindset where now it's, have to look at things as a product and product market fit.
Did you second guess yourself in that transition process?
No, I loved it. It was a great, just making that jump. And I worked on the very first thing, which wasn't successful, but it was a big learning curve. It was a video sharing app. And I worked on I did a micro pivot from one idea of the video sharing to another idea still around the video sharing, both of which Snapchat did the first part a year and a half later from when I was doing it. And then Instagram did the other one 3 years later. And so in both ideas, I was ahead of Instagram and Snapchat by a year and a half and 3 years.
Wow. But their technology is not yours.
But their technology is not mine. No. So that's...
Why do you walk away from that technology a year and a half ago?
So that was...
At that time, yeah.
Yeah, at the time. Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit briefly. The very first one was about geolocation video on a map so that you could see in real time what was happening in any geographic location. And so you can imagine if users are posting videos when they're at an event, and then people can now look on a map and see the videos in that area to see what's happening. And so that, I don't know if you know, but Snapchat released Snap Map then in 2017. That, same exact thing. It's that they have a map now where on Snapchat you can see all the snaps in the area. I'll just say briefly that a learning experience I had from that had to do with USP, unique selling proposition, that the putting videos on a map, I don't know that was enough of a USP, but sending ephemeral messages between friends was for Snapchat. And so the feature of the map was a great addition to Snapchat. I don't know that as an app by itself, it was as much of a, the USP was there.
Was it a painful lesson?
The thing about that too is I actually very much underestimated how much time and complexity went into the building of the app and the technology. So I don't know that it was painful. I think when you have this just, I can't stop drive, and you won't fail. You're going to maybe try some different ideas, but at the end of the day, you can't stop. So for me, I don't know that it was painful that it didn't work out. I learned a lot, got to experience why video processing and transcoding is very difficult. And a lot of video actually at that same time, a lot of companies were trying to build this and having a lot of technical challenges with video processing. I don't know if you remember the Periscope, Meerkat, some of those So anyways, just some of the examples where one company, the tech worked really well and the other company was trying to compete, but the tech was not able to handle it. So very, very complicated. But,
and what's next for you, Chris?
Yeah. So, well, for me, I mean, yeah. So after that, I then, so after the video sharing, then I got into blockchain and got into a bunch of stuff related to that. Because at the time it was 2017 and crypto,
very hot.
Is a good market.
And what did you join as a co-founder, CTO? How do you join those businesses?
Yeah. So at the time, I was being a fractional CTO, helping a couple of different companies. I wanted to take a little bit of a break after working on the video app, and just kind of help other companies. Since I had that skill set, and then I ended up meeting a really interesting company while I was backpacking through Prague at the time.
What?
And
wait, that did not come up? What happened? That's amazing.
So that was so Prague, if you haven't been, it's incredible. Yeah, I highly recommend it. Prague is just this beautiful place, just amazing culture and so much to do. And actually I'm going back there from July through September this year.
What?
And just we're co-working from Prague.
Wow, that's
incredible.
Amazing. Wow, what is the time difference? Is it very easy?
7 hours.
Oh, that's not horrible. Just like Hawaii almost.
Yep.
Wow. You have to tell me all about it later. That's amazing.
Yeah. So met. So while I was there backpacking, ended up meeting. I heard I was at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And this American was talking about some startup that he had, and I didn't know anybody, and of course I'm like, okay, what are you doing? I'm also working on a startup, and so then got to hear what he was doing, and he was in the Sims business school. And he had just finished 6 years working in the Peace Corps, and he now was getting his master's in business with the Sims school, and just really interesting guy. And he ended up dropping out of the business school to pursue his entrepreneurial venture.
Wow.
Yeah, and he started this company that was focused on how to get more community engagement in getting product feedback, getting maybe community engagement for product market fit assistance, and then engaging in a profit share model to help the startups, through that. And so when I met him, and then in 2017 was there backpacking and reconnected with him. Actually, this is when I reconnected with him for a second time. And he was just launching the cryptocurrency to empower the community. And so I ended up, he asked, hey, we don't know how to launch that. Can you do it? And I said, well, let's see what happens. And so then I learned it, built it. And then 10 days later, we launched their cryptocurrency that they ended up doing this ICO is what it was called back in that time. So did the initial coin offering, and got to then experience the whole new, the crypto space. And I can tell you, a lot of interesting stuff about that topic. Yeah. So,
wow, you are multifaceted. You are jumping from one to another, and wow, you are definitely open to learn all the new subject and new industry. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are you loving it?
I love it. Yeah, no, it's for me, it's the driver. I'm not as, it's not, what drives me is I like to really just understand these industries, and really, understand why these new markets exist and new technology comes into existence, and what motivates decisions and communities, and why people do what they do. I've always been fascinated by that.
So what did you learn? Share with us.
So there's an article I'm thinking about releasing where I talk about the 7 types of people in crypto.
Ooh.
And I might have to save that one, but I'm thinking about writing that just to talk about some of the different personality types, because I got to see, being in that. And then I ended up spending 2018 also pretty heavily involved with the community and still am. And just seeing kind of more evolution and, why are people getting into it? Why is it potentially transformative and disruptive in industries? And, but also simultaneously seeing a lot of other not so, good things, but fraud sometimes. But
So in your opinion, what drives people? And secondly, what drives the business succeed?
Yeah, well, I think that crypto, there's I'll mention maybe a couple of these types, but some of them are, there's a lot of people who are very fascinated with exploring alternative governance models, right? So it's a lot of what cryptocurrency and blockchain show is sort of a testing ground for what if we introduce this type of governance, right? So, proof of work, proof of stake, proof of, all these different, all these different types of saying, how can we democratize and decentralize the governance around something? And what cryptocurrency or just blockchain in general really does at the end of the day is it disintermediates and adds a layer of efficiency into the market where there doesn't have to be this intermediary that handles the maintenance, right? So if your bank account is just being managed by this blockchain, it just exists, and there's no bank necessarily that's the one managing it, then it introduces some efficiencies into the market around transferring and fees and a lot of things that it has a lot of potential there. And then you go into the enterprise side of it and see how in supply chain, there's also a lot of focus there where now all of these different organizations within the supply chain can share that data and information into this shared blockchain to introduce an efficiency there where it's not a third party that is doing it. It's now publicly available. So
You're certainly passionate about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just a very fascinating area, and it's also just predicated upon a lot of pretty amazing advancements in cryptography and in computer science and math, and just it's really an amazing kind of elegant system of how what went into designing a lot of it, because it's very complicated to think of how to move from we don't need this trusted third party to design a system that can actually handle all the scenarios of where things can go wrong is a very challenging but fun thought experiment. And that's what a lot of it is.
We can't wait for the article to come out. Yeah. With that, Chris, tell us a little bit more about Logictray. What brought you to there?
Yeah, so I was back so this is 2018, and I was just, really interested in the crypto space. But what I've been looking for is something to kind of really put my name behind, saying this is what that I want and really am passionate about. And so in August of 2018, I ended up getting into an argument with a friend of mine who's a mathematician. And he, funnily enough, he said that something I said violated the principles of formal logic. And I'm like, what is that, right? And so he explained to me that formal logic is the kind of formal mathematical proof of how we look at a sentence and if it's correct or not. And so we were up at night arguing about something so ridiculous that no one should be arguing about, the definition of formal logic. But I woke up the next day and I took a course from Oxford that someone, Marion Talbot, teaches this course about formal logic and about what it is. And it's really it's deductive, inductive, and abductive reasoning, and it's how we know what is true in the world, right? So, deductively, that is things that are always true. Inductively, things that are just probabilistically true, right? 99.9% of the time, when the sky is blue, it's not raining. So today, the sky is blue, therefore it's probably not raining, right? And then there's abductive, which is, this is science's best guess. This is what most experts in the field believe to be true. And so it was started, in that time that I just started thinking, man, there's just something. I've always cared about learning, education, and how people think and how people make decisions, how they decide to do the things that they do, right? And that's why I was so passionate about, every time I learned something new, it was to see, why are people in crypto? Why do people believe in it? Why do they build businesses around it? What motivates them? What led to that decision? And so that's so then formal logic, I started really kind of diving into that and thinking about it. And then one other kind of random thing happened, or probably not random, but in January of 2019, I had coffee with two friends that were from out of town, and we were talking about, what they were doing and what I was doing. And they had known that I've bounced around from a bunch of different things, and, that's not really what they've done. So they were asking, what is it that motivates you? And, I explained to them, I'm still kind of trying to figure exactly out what's that thing, right? And they said to me, well, you have to go to your why. Like, why? Like, what is important to you? Like, what at the end of the day do you value? And so I actually left that coffee. The very next day, I got down and I said, okay, I'm going to sit in front of my computer. I'm going to make a list. What am I passionate about? And the second word that I wrote was logic.
What's the first word?
The first word was game theory.
Oh, wow.
So I wrote game theory, logic, chess was in there, software development, education, learning, continuous learning.
It's amazing.
And then and the last one was always stay questioning, or always kind of that curiosity. And so, I just kind of wrote that list, didn't think anything of it, kind of left it, to see, okay, what is that going to mean? 1 week later, I was then on Slack, and the person that I was working with was asking me questions. And I knew that I was being asked all these questions because he was trying to make a decision. And I felt that, man, all these questions being asked, and what does it amount to, right? What's the decision that's being made, and how is all this information leading to that decision? And we have no traceability for that. And so that's when I had just this aha moment and woke up the next day. And then that's kind of what led to, everything started from there.
Wow. So tell us that. How does Logictray helping us to make the right decision for folks who are maybe not as familiar with the company?
Yeah. So like most, companies, things start off a bit nebulous, right? You're like, okay, what is this? But, so then through a series of kind of pivots and little pivots about, what it is exactly that, we're trying to do and how to affect better decisions. Because that's ultimately, it was about how do we share the logic and how do we capture what criteria is used in decision making and how people make decisions. What separates one person that has certain expertise? How is their decision different from another's, right? And so through a series of things and micro pivots, ended up in April of 2019, ended up reaching back out to National Instruments, my former employer, and said, hey, I think that if we could capture this information for customer support, so how do we capture, because I remember when I first worked for National Instruments out of college that I was in customer support before product manager. And the hardest thing was when I got on the phone with a customer, what question do I even ask? I didn't know where to start. And if I finally asked a question that was valuable, then it was like, okay, well, what's next? What question do I now ask? And the problem was, without knowing what questions to ask, I was trying to, search and find information based on a lack of information. It was just unsuccessful. And so I feel like almost, for the first 3 months, 90% of my phone calls were just me writing down whatever they say, going to the expert and saying, what do I do now? And then they would say, you need to ask this, this, and this. And then here are some resources you should reference. And then based on that, this is what you might do. And it's just that ability to ask the right questions is what separates, the expert from, a lot of the new hires and people that are not the expert.
Wow. What a journey. You circle back and like a full circle in your journey. And that's amazing, Chris.
Thanks.
It's a long journey home.
Yeah. It was a great journey too, because from getting back home, because I also have had such, I've just loved what Dr. T and this organization and what NI has done. And so for me, a lot of it felt great to kind of get back into the NI family. And even though now it was very different because I was starting the SaaS company, for this capturing decision making. And, but now getting to work from a product standpoint, of my own, that now I could work with National Instruments, and it was cool to work back, with them. And so, so basically we ended up applying it to sales enablement. I'll just mention that. So we started building sales enablement tools to help their internal sales organization know what questions to ask.
It's incredible.
During the customer discovery, so that ultimately they can recommend the right product to the customer.
I like a decision tree.
That's exactly. So it's a decision tree, but a decision tree like you've never seen before. It's one that can handle
complex decision.
Very high complexity, and not only that, but a lot of systems thinking. So how do you incorporate systems thinking into a decision tree where you can consider all these different subsystems at work that go into the decision-making process. And that's, what we were building with them, that how do we do that in the sales process, right? To help the sales force, sell these very complex sales process.
I'm going to just mention, Chris, I love geeks.
Yeah.
I love people who are so passionate about their craft. And I just feel like you are someone who had that. Like, not only you are incredibly intelligent and smart and talented, but you truly have this mentality to solving the problem in the fundamental level. And I can see you kind of combine the knowledge and insight and along with that heart to solving the problem and create such a complex and beautiful solution. So, wow, thank you so much.
Thanks.
So with that, Chris, I'm curious, you mentioned this a little bit earlier in the conversation about your why. So what's your why today?
So the why for me, and Logictry is spelled like Logictry, which we always joke saying that, try logic, right? From that. So it's got a good, it can work there, but it was based on chemistry and trying to be a bit of bringing, my why is, the intersection between technology and education. And so for me, what Logictry is doing is bringing interactive learning content into the enterprise, all the way even into right now we're exploring things in K through 12.
Wow.
And so we're exploring things across the map in how to apply this kind of logic infused education material into the world. And And to do that, and the reason for me, it's the why, is because I just love to break down complex topics to where someone can understand it. It's just, I've just always had this just love of that when I see that, someone doesn't understand something, I'm like, let me see if I can explain it. And then they have this moment. It's like, I love that moment. And so it's just, this is why, for me, it's this alignment through the education side of it. That's just this is it.
I love that. I said it's looking at the twinkle in people's eyes. When you see him in your head, that magical, oh my God, I got it, that light bulb moment. I imagine that's where you find the joy.
Yeah.
Chris, one day when we all be gone, what do you want your gravestone to say about you?
Well, I will say that, so I'll just mention real quick briefly what we're getting ready to launch, and that might give some context. So what we have not launched yet, and you won't find publicly, but we're getting ready to go live with that, is we're launching what we call the Wikipedia of actionable knowledge. And so at the end of the day, what I would like to be, if there's something that I could be known for in the gravestone, it would be that I impacted providing better democratized access to expertise and expert thinking into the world, that unlocked better economic opportunities for everyone. And so if that for me would be the definition of success, would be the educational access and opportunity that I could have.
I have so much goosebumps when you say that. And, in some way, Chris, I feel like you are following exactly what your mom's footsteps.
Yep.
She is empowering and teaching those younger generation. You taking exactly that philosophy and empowering company, businesses, make the right choices. And wow. And you talk about success. I'm curious. You give us a definition of what success looks like. Do you think, are you a success today?
Yeah, that's a interesting question. It's funny because people measure success, differently, and
how do you measure it?
Yeah, I will say for me, I think before that conversation where I was asked, what is it you're passionate about? What's your why? I think that was a little bit of a transformative moment for me, that moving away from some of the ways that maybe I defined it in the past. I think now the way I would define it is, at least for myself, again, it's the people that we can help from the educational side. I think that's, I think for what we're doing, just the more impact that we can have, in the world, the better on that. I think we're successful. I think that, like any entrepreneur, you just have very aggressive, goals. And so you're successful, but you're also, let's get to that next goal.
What is your biggest fear, if they are?
Well, I think my biggest fear, I guess, I'll admit, has been a little bit of the fear of failure. Has been something for me. Has been a biggest fear. Feeling like that if I, I have this passion around building something that does deliver this impact, and I think maybe have battled a lot with having this fear that maybe at the end of, I'll put in all this work, because I've always just been comfortable working a lot and putting in passion, but having a fear that it won't translate to the impact that I really hope that it will for the world. I think that's often been my biggest fear.
And I want to say, Chris, first of all, it takes a lot of courage to truly share. So thank you. Secondly, I definitely think you are not alone. Many of us have that similar mentality, feeling that whether the failure or we are not good enough or the thing that we are building are essentially not have that market value that we had in our mind.
Yep.
So with that, Chris, how would you recommend mitigate this?
Oh, to mitigate that risk of, well, I think there's a number of things. I think the first is you do have to find the why of what you're really passionate about, because then failure is it almost seems to fade away, the feeling of failure, because you're so focused on doing something that you feel that this is what you have been wanting to do for so long. And that really helps that you're not so focused on just this, transactional, numbers-based outcome or something that's just, if you're just focused on that and you're not really focused on, this is what you get to do every single day and you love it and you can't wait, for this, and you feel like you can't fail, right? So I think that's one way that you mitigate it, is just to focus on what your why is, what your values are. Focus on things that aren't your values, and that's how you most likely lead to the failure. And I can speak from that personal experience that I think a lot of when I was working on video sharing apps, I think a lot of those were actually me not working on really a why. I was interested in the technology, but I think it wasn't, what I wanted from a value standpoint. And then, I think just beyond that, it's education and people, and just growing, more support you can have from the people aspect, I think is the biggest thing.
And am I hearing you correctly, Chris? Are you saying that it has to be alignment with what you do and the why, and that's how you yield to success with your own experience, whether it's at the time that video endeavor, which is a phenomenal success. If you think about technology, think about application, but was it because it's not the perfect alignment, therefore?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just, you didn't, you've got to have that alignment of the why, why now, why you, why not anyone else? You have to feel that way. When I was working on the previous stuff, I didn't feel like why me or why any, but for this, I feel like this at least for me is something that I feel 100% that this is something I've just been deeply passionate about from education my entire life. And so I don't know, I feel like this is when I feel much more confident that no matter what, this is in alignment.
And I think that's the luckiest feeling in the whole world. I think everybody can have a job, have a paycheck, have a company to go to, but how many of them can say, you know what, this is exactly what I meant to do on this planet. This is exactly how I share my gift with the world. And I think everybody, whatever you do, whether it's your entrepreneurship journey, your businesses, your family, whatever thing that really deeply passionate for you, is all about we sharing our gift. And I'm so happy to see, Chris. I feel like you come all the full circle, and now you truly find something that truly resonates with your talent, your passion. With that, Chris, I do want to ask, one last question is, you were on this, startup journey for a while now, whether it's your own venture or partner with others. What do you see is fundamentally we observe are important for startup success?
I think, well, as far as what's important for startup success, I think I do, like I said, I think the why is an important thing, because it not only aligns you and yourself, but it aligns others in support of what you're doing. Even just working, for a company, working for a company that you align with the why is, that makes it all the better, right? It's like,
I love that.
Yeah. Versus, because it's, entrepreneurial isn't for everyone, and it's also not as easy or as glamorous as it sounds like it is.
Yeah.
It can be great to work for a great company that you share a why with what they're doing. I think that from that, I would say that the biggest things on startup success, we'll do one plug is that, we're going to be launching that on Logictrry is a lot of these startup, basically it's how you help me decide for the world across different topics. So help me decide what type of startup, help me decide, should I take on funding, help me decide,
Wow.
so we're building this help me decide content for all the questions that startups kind of have. And this content series is something that is going to help, just to kind of help startups navigate some of those. So I'll say that one plug. But
That's amazing. We would love to be part of that. Whenever it's launched, please send us over. We'll put it in the description so folks can check it out. That sounds phenomenal.
That's awesome. Thank you.
What is the biggest mistake you see founder make?
Well,
If they are.
yeah. Well, I can say that there's a number of things that are challenging as founders. I'll say one, one of them that is an example of what I hope, to help with is even just startups figuring out what type of an entity to form.
Okay.
An Inc. versus an LLC, something. So it's like picking between those can be a source of, it can be a problem for founders to figure out which type, right? And so, that's maybe an example of something I hope to solve, is helping in those areas of these little questions that if we can make it easier to overcome them, that helps. But
That's amazing.
yeah, I think maybe the biggest, I guess if I was going to say one thing that founders can make a mistake on is that they might get too wrapped up though in the passion around, what they're building, that they forget to seek that market validation and talk to customers, right? And, sometimes they'll just get too wrapped up in this is what I'm building and they're not validating it, right? And they're not checking to make sure that this is what the market needs or that, or just even that they're building it in the right way.
Yeah, that's a great perspective because oftentimes we are so love drinking our own Kool-Aid. This is what I built, and once it's built, well, guess what? Customer gonna magically show up, buy all the product, and boom, we're gonna be Facebook like tomorrow.
Yep.
And I love that you pointed out because oftentimes we of course love our craft, but that product market fit, that validation from the market truly are essential.
Yep.
So with that, Chris, truly thank you so much for coming on board, share your story with us. Wow, what an impactful journey. And truly, thank you so much for being so open, so honest, so authentic. And also, thank you everybody who is listening today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. And I cannot wait to see you all next time. Bye, guys.